Most people say they want to scale, but what they actually mean is I want more money without anything else changing. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. Welcome to today's episode of Business Growth Lab. I'm your host, Samantha Riley, joined as always with my partner in business in crime. There we go. I got it in, Leon Flitton. Thanks for
Excellent.
joining me again. I know. Sorry, I have to. It's just the way we speak. Be inauthentic not to say it, right?
Exactly right.
I believe you are going to take us off today.
Well,
I'm a little bit nervous about where you're going to take us.
no, just before I was actually having a conversation with one of my mates' daughters because she knows I'm a car nut and she likes motorbikes, right?
Yeah.
And what's your dream car? And I went, why? I don't know why that wasn't an easy answer.
Yeah,
But
why
anyway,
wasn't that an
I
easy
don't know.
answer?
I think I like too many cars.
Yeah, okay.
So I gave her four, and she goes, "That's not one." I went, "Okay." fair enough."
What for are they?
Well, I always want a Dodge Viper.
Uh-huh.
And then I love those Mercedes coupes. I reckon they're absolute beasts of things.
Yeah.
And then I always want a Toyota Supra. I don't know why. It's a
Oh
Supra.
my goodness.
Yeah, weird, right? Pretty weird. That's eclectic. And then I still want to get some kind of V8 Land Cruiser. I think that's my thing. Anyway, but that's me. But what I got me thinking about was, this is not nothing to do with cars, was you like the ballet, but what's your favorite all-time ballet?
Oh my goodness, this is so easy for me. Romeo and Juliet. Oh my goodness, it's my most favorite ballet because the score is so beautiful. It's just, I love all music. Like this morning, I've had Taylor Swift on quite loud. Our neighbours would be like, okay, we're listening to that again. But yesterday I had Hilltop Hoods on. Like I have a very eclectic taste in music. But if you put on the score for Romeo and Juliet, I just immediately just melt. I love it. And it's so cool because you need to know this, Leon, because my birthday coming up. Romeo and Juliet is at Sydney Opera House in 1 month's time.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Aries, send Aries gifts now, all right? Because
I've been sending Leon all the memes. I even sent him a text message yesterday that said, Siri, just letting you know that you need to remind Leon to buy me gifts.
I say gift, I meant memes. That's so old school.
Gifts with a T. Gifts. Presents. Not gifts. Oh my goodness. Now I'm going to end up with a whole heap of gifts for my birthday.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Okay, well.
All right. Let's get to today's episode. We're going to be talking about, or we are talking about scaling a business. And I think that this is an important conversation. We've had it with a few people just recently because a lot of business owners say that they want to scale. But I think it's really, really important conversation because scaling isn't just more of the same. So a lot of people think, oh, I want to scale. But what they're really saying is, I want more money doing exactly or less than what I'm doing now. And that is not what it is. Like, let's have this honest conversation about what scaling is, because scaling changes the way that your business works. It changes the way you work. And if we're being like really, really honest, scaling changes who you are inside the business and who you are actually in life in general. Because the person that's in a 10K a month business and the person that's in $100,000 a month business, they're two completely different people. I know this. I've lived it. So yeah, I want to talk about this.
Yeah. And I think there's also something to separate as well, and that's growth from scale.
Yes. Thank you very much.
To me, growth is just more of the same, but scaling is a whole different game, I feel anyway. So
yeah, actually, that's a really good point, because I think when people say scale, a lot of times they mean growth. So I remember having this conversation with someone I met at a dinner a few years ago, and it was it was quite funny because she was saying, oh, I was looking for a specific coach to help me scale. I'm like, cool, tell me about your business. She went, well, I haven't started it yet. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not scaling. That's growing, or that's actually launching. That's startup.
It's launching. Yeah, it's launch. Yeah, just launch it first. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't scale it until you nail it, right? There has to be something there to scale. So yeah, growth and scale are two very, very different things. So really, I'm really glad that you brought that up to begin with, Leon.
Yeah. If we're talking about, as you mentioned, that they're not the same person that does, the 100K, it's the same person does a mill.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think those differences mainly are?
Well, let's break it down. I think number one is that the skills that you bring into your business or the skills that you use to grow your business are not the same skills that you use to scale it. So to get to a certain point, let's just say that 10 to 15K a month, right? The thing that you're really good at, the coaching, the expertise, whatever you're actually doing, the writing documents, whatever it is, you can grow a business to 10 to 15K a month just doing that. It's the coaching, holding space, getting results, whatever it is. But scaling is a different set of muscle, I guess you could say. It's, what does your marketing architecture look like? What does your offer design look like? What do your sales systems look like? What does your team leadership look like? You need a team, right? How does the financial thinking change? And the operations, they're all going to change. So as the founder, all of a sudden you have to change your thinking from this thing that I'm the best at isn't actually the thing that grows the company or scales the company. So there's this massive identity shift that needs to happen because, as you mentioned at the beginning, Leon, most people think that scaling is just doing more of the same, but it's not. So that's hence the identity shift. And I think that most people think it's a skill deficit to grow a company. I'm not going to say it's not. There's a lot of new skills that you need. But I actually think that the two biggest things are a mindset shift and an identity shift. They're the two biggest things. And we've seen it from some of the rooms that we've been in where people have talked about, I was at this and then I got to this. And every single one of them said, I had to think like a different person. I had to suddenly take accountability for the things that were going to move the needle. I suddenly had to do different activities in my business. I suddenly had to, almost grow up in a business sense, and suddenly I needed to record data. I needed to think like a CEO. I needed to know I was the person to take me there.
Yeah.
So it's a different way of being and different way of doing is what needs to happen.
Yeah. I think I see this the most difficult with people that come out of corporate. And I say this because, they might have been, middle senior management in corporate. They come and run their own business. But what's happened is there's always been someone at the very top, like the board or somewhere, giving outright direction and then filtering down to having a job description. This person's responsible for this and this person responsible for that. Then all of a sudden, when it's your own business, you're responsible for everything.
Yeah.
Like all that planning, all that forecasting, all that pushing ahead, all that making those decisions. And I think that identity crisis hits crisis. Well, identity, it's a crisis at the time.
Crisis.
And I think it hits them really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Because all of a sudden there's no one else to blame for a start.
Well, yeah, true.
It didn't happen because that team member didn't do it, or I was just doing what I was told to do. I honestly think that for everyone that says, it's hard having a job, in some ways it's almost easier because you go there, you know exactly what you need to do. And even if you're using your own decision making, it's still based on something that you've been directed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Where in your own business, there is no directive.
Yeah.
You have the vision. And if you're no good at accountability and holding yourself accountable to get those jobs done, the stuff that you don't like to do, then it's really easy not to do it.
Yeah. But also, I'm going to flip that a little bit and go, if you're someone like me or you that doesn't like being told what to do by anyone, maybe your job's really, really hard. I'm just saying.
So here's the thing. I think they're both hard. Having a business is hard. Having a job is hard. You just have to choose your hard.
Yep.
And I think that that's something really important to remember because, just recently, a few people have gone, oh, that's really hard. Well, yeah, it is really hard. Let's be honest here. It is really hard. I've grown and scaled multiple businesses, and when you're scaling a business, you're pulling so much of your profit and putting it back into business, and people on the outside are going, oh my goodness, like they're doing so well. Well, you don't actually know what's happening behind the scenes, because there are times where in past times that there isn't any money to pull out because it's all being pumped back into the business. That's really hard. And at that time, it's either we do this hard or we don't grow, and then that's hard, or we could just quit the whole lot and go back to a business, and that's hard. Like, I'm on a soapbox about this at the moment, because it really is about choose your hard. Like, if you're in business to be having it be super easy every single day, then I just don't know that it's the right place for you.
Yeah. So there is some things that I look at, and I always think, I see the same people you're talking about, and they go, oh my God, look at that person. They're doing so well in business, and they, whatever, and they almost go, they must be ripping someone off or something like that, like, and going, yeah, but hang on, they're the people that put it all on the line. They're the people that pumped all their money back into for the advertising and the growth, and to have systems and the things that you need to grow a business, right? And scale a business, I should say.
Yeah.
They've done that, so they're taking the reward from the risk that they had, so, and that comes in a number of forms too. Like, they got the risk of stress, like, you're stressed out going, oh wow, can you pay the wages this month and this, that, and we need money for advertising, and this software costs money, and if you're in a shop like you were, you had to have a certain amount of stock and those things, so you've had that risk, so to get the reward. So I think you can sum it up by people doing the things that others won't. So they've got what others don't have. If that's
absolutely.
Right.
Now, I want to be really clear here. If you are listening and go, but I've got this, 10 or 15K coming in, and I really like it like that, and I just want to coach or do my expertise, and I don't want a team at all, and you're happy doing that, that is brilliant. Because I think at the end of the day, we should all create something so that we are happy. That's why we go into business, to have something that we're happy with, that gives us the life that we want. And if that's what you want, 100%, like, there's no shade being thrown here whatsoever. But if some days you're like, I actually don't feel great and I have to show up, or I actually want to take a month off, and you can't say, like, that's not fair, because you've created that. That's so totally fine. Who we're speaking to are the people that are like, we've got this fire in our belly that we want this to be bigger. And can I just say that I did talk about the fact that you're pumping all of your time and profits back in to scale. I've been in a position where I was 37, I'll never forget it, and I had worked to a point where in our 3 businesses, I didn't need to show up in any of them. They were fully operational because I'd scaled them. That was fabulous. It was so good because I got to hang out with my kids. But I put it all on the line to be at that point. So was it worth it? 100%. I would do it that way every single time, because I had the time and the money to do whatever it was that I wanted to do. But there was a cost to get there. So you've just got to choose what you are willing to do to get there.
Yeah. You need to choose your hard.
You do need to choose your hard. And yeah, like I said, I do it like that every time, because I know that at the other end of that hard, it's worth every single bit of it.
Yeah. And like you said, like, not throwing shade, if somebody wants to make their, 5, 10, 15K a month, whatever it is that they've got, that their plan is work X amount of hours, there's also ways you can organize yourself there so that you're okay too. Like, if you need to take a month off, whatever it is, but you need to be thinking ahead about how do you do that. So, but you can't then turn around and go, well, I want to make more. I wish I was making more money, if you didn't bother to grow or scale it. So there's 2 sides to that coin, I suppose.
Totally. So let's take it back to the question that you asked me. What are some of the things that are different? And I think that one of the biggest mindset shifts is that the business can't revolve around you anymore. So what got you to grow to a point that your business can look after you is that you've done everything. But you get to a point where it actually has to revolve around not you. So, in the early stages, you're answering all the messages, you're doing all the calls, you're coaching, you're the one that's delivering, you're the one that's fixing the problems, you're the one that's making every decision. And that only works for a short amount of time before what will happen is eventually the business will become really dependent on you showing up and your energy. And then all of a sudden, if you want to keep growing, you're the bottleneck. So it comes a point where you are the absolute constraint. And to be able to scale, you need to make that shift from operator into CEO. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. And a lot of people get really confused because it isn't one day you're an operator and the next you're a CEO. And it doesn't go like that. There's a really messy middle where you need to think like a CEO, but you need to do like the operator to get you through that messy middle, or to transition, I guess, because bit by bit, you will come out of that operator position. But I think this trips up a lot of people because they're like, but I want to be the CEO, but I'm doing all these operator tasks. Well, you need to do operator tasks to get you to a point where you've got enough money to plug into being able to get out of those. And that's where the messy middle is. And I think that maybe a lot of people get really confused on that piece.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely reinvesting money in this case that we're talking about. The other thing is time. Now, you just talked there about the CEO part of it, and I will talk a bit more about this in the next part of the podcast today. But just want you to have a think about the things that you were doing with things like creativity or the planning and those bits and pieces. You need the brain capacity to do that.
Yes.
And if you're doing all the other bits and pieces of admin and stuff like that, you don't have the capacity available to do more, because you're talking about scaling. There needs to be planning and, actually strategizing, I should say. Yes. That. Then it needs to be there, but you need the brain capacity to do it.
Yeah.
So, which probably brings us to our next point, which I was just saying before. At some stage, you need to learn to let go of things. And I think this is probably one of the biggest problems I see with people letting go of things, even from like a lower end of it. How many people do you know that like to go and play in Canva because rather than getting a designer?
Oh my goodness. Right. And I think that this comes in, there's a mindset with this piece though, that I can't get anyone to help me yet because I haven't made the money, right? But there's this piece where it's like you have to get yourself to that point to get the money. And this is where so many people get stuck because, well, something that I hear a lot is I can't do any of that because I only just made profit this year. Like that's the horrible transition period, right?
And that's a thing. That's definitely a thing.
It's 100% it's a thing, and it's 100% of a thing every single time for every single business, right? But you know what? It's about, we talk about investing in people to help you, but I actually think the bigger piece is investing in yourself to have the belief that when I do that will be okay. And I think that comes back to that identity shift and the mindset shift.
Yeah.
And that plays into what you were just saying, that you need to let go of control, but you also need to step up and do different activities. Yeah. You can't just let go of control and do nothing. It's you let go of control of those things that other people can do so that you can do the CEO activities. It's not just about letting go and doing nothing.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess I could have just confused it because that's both ends of the spectrum.
And look, and at risk of me confusing it more, there is a time when you need to hustle as well.
Yeah.
You need to let go of some things so you can hustle on other things.
Yeah.
So I think it's like choosing where your energy goes.
Yep.
And it's like you said, that letting go part, it's crucial to you making the next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not saying let go and do nothing and just sit around.
No.
It's choosing where your energy is going to go.
Yeah, it's making the decision to serve the company, not just your comfort. And it's about understanding that sometimes you need to do hard things to get to the comfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And one of them,
here's the hard things again, right? It
yeah,
keeps coming up. It's the
that's right.
hard things.
Well, and then I brought up Canva before. Okay, so
Yeah.
you need to be okay with letting a designer go into Canva and do designs for you, for example, just one thing, rather than you doing it yourself because you think you're the best at it, and you might be, and it might not. That might be the case, but if you do all those other pieces, you can't be the CEO and move forward. So that's like the letting go part.
Yeah, totally, totally. This leads into the next part of what we're talking about, and that is some parts of the business actually become less fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something that not many people talk about, right? Because in marketing, this is the thing that doesn't sound that attractive, right? It's very easy to say, build a business that you love and it's going to be easy and you can do it in 10 hours a week.
That's because it's just a load of rubbish, really. Like,
yeah.
I mean, all the people I know that are in business, they're always thinking about it at some point in time, right? But that's, they don't just they don't do 10 hours and shut off. It's not kind of the way it works.
Yeah.
But what you're saying here is some parts aren't going to be fun, like especially if your forte isn't going through data planning analysis or something. But that's what you need to do because, we talked about in the previous episode, we're talking about data and how much of it we need to move forwards and keep evolving with time. Well, the same thing with your business when you get to scale it. So, if you're just a person doing a solopreneur thing, it's quite simple. But as you start getting team and like your cost of things go up and advertising and whatever else, you need to then start dealing with all those numbers that are involved with it to make sure that you're scaling rather than just growing, you're scaling and actually making more profit and all those things as well so that you go in the right direction. But then you've also got things like, well, now we need to think about, the people in the business. And
like your role changes because now you're making strategic decisions. You're reviewing numbers, you're leading people, you're designing systems, even if you're not the one that's putting them together, because I don't put our systems together, but I tell the team which systems need to be put together sometimes, although I'm training them to know the systems first. But that's the CEO part, right? It's about, leading the team and it's about solving the bigger problems. So the role that I started at when I started coaching, which was the coach, is now really, really different. Yeah, I'm still coaching, but it's a much more strategic place because I need to be able to pull all this data to be able to do the things. But when I started coaching, I didn't have data to pull. Does that make sense? Because I was coaching, I needed to do the thing to get the data. And this is, why the role changes because you can't start with data. You have to do the thing first. But this sort of messy middle part, what you were talking about, we need the data. That can trigger a lot of people because when they first start doing the data, they're like, well, I don't like doing this. It takes too much time. And let's call the elephant out here. They don't like to record the data because at the beginning it looks shit.
Well,
the data looks horrible at the beginning. and it's very triggering because you're like, ooh, that's jarring. Yep. That's not where it should be. But the thing is that it has to start there so that you can know what to do next, so that you can change it, so that you can make the strategic decisions. You need to see the horrible data to make the strategic decisions to move forward. And sometime down the track, you can have a team member to pull that data for you. But at the beginning, you have to do it because you need to understand it because you can't afford someone to pull it for you. You need to pull the data so that you can figure out how to bring a team member in to do it. You need to understand those numbers.
Yeah. So the other thing is as well, it's just data.
Like, I think that's data. I think that's the thing. Just take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just remove the emotion. It's just data. But the best thing about data is it tells you where the opportunities are.
Yeah.
Now, you could lie to yourself and not look at the data if you want. And sure, go ahead. If you don't want to scale or grow, you can do that. But if you want to grow, remove the emotion. Just look at the data, see what's going wrong. And, from the outside, it could be diabolical if you think about it. But removing the emotion, you're going, okay, well, this is the next gap I've got to sort out. So data says this is the next thing to work on. So you work on that. And then after you fix that, you go, well, this is the next thing, and you work on that. And that's, how it, well, that's scaling, right? And how you work out where to scale, where to grow.
Totally.
The other thing I was just going to say as well was we talked about growth and scale, and my mind kind of equates scaling to leverage.
That's what, 100%.
Yeah. So when you think about, try and do everything yourself, how can you leverage that? There's no possible way you can do it yourself and leverage it. So you need to have either other systems, processes, people, whatever the case may be, to actually leverage that to get more profit, to get more, more sales, more profit, and grow your business through scaling it. I think that's better.
Yeah, totally. I just want to go back to that data quickly, because I want to share where I used to be with data, because, I talk about it all the time. I actually love data. I love spreadsheets. It's not how I started. So when we had our dance shops, my business partner back then was very data oriented, and I was like the artist. I was the dancer. I was the one that ordered in our fashion. Like, that was my part of the business, like the people, the making the shop look pretty, all that kind of stuff. And he was data analyst, all of those things, looked after the money. And we got to a point where, exactly what we're talking about here. We'd grown, and all of us, we got to like the 500K mark, and we're like, we need to do something different to be able to grow past here. So we kind of hit a little sticking point where we'd been there for a little bit and we wanted to get further. And I didn't look at the data. I never used to look at the data. I just used to, he would give me the numbers and the projections. I knew what my budget was per month, and I would order within that budget. And I didn't really know much past that. And we got to a point where we had to sit down and we had to start looking at what was happening. Things like, which departments were we making the most profit in? Which departments were we making the most sales in? Because they weren't the same thing. Which team members did we want? Like, what days were we making the most? Like, we had to get right in there. And I hated it. I was like, I hate looking at these spreadsheets. I hate looking at these numbers. Some of it does, and I'll be honest, lots of it didn't make sense to me. But what started to happen is the more that I looked at the data, the more I understood it. And the more I understood it, the more I realized, if I do something here, that affects a number over there. And I started to gamify it myself. And it started to get exciting of like, let me do this so that the numbers go up there. And once I started to gamify the numbers and have fun with them and realize that, suddenly we made, 10K more this week, that started getting really exciting. And all of a sudden it was a huge gain to me. And that was the biggest thing. Once I understood the data and understood how to play with it and it got exciting, that's when we grew really quick. And we went from 500K to $1 million in 6 months.
Yeah, nice.
And it's because I started to play with the data, not manipulate it in like a bad way, but gamify it in an exciting way. And I said in the last episode, I hate gaming. I hate gaming on
not that kind of gaming.
On PlayStations, but I love gaming spreadsheets.
Yeah. I love the fact that you gamified it. I think that's brilliant. And a mindset shift, right? You can look at data as bad and horrible and that's a nasty thing, or you can go, this is fun. Let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah.
Turn to a game. So
yep.
I'm pretty sure Sam plays Mario Kart. But just saying, anyway.
I don't think I've ever played Mario Kart, but I do like Crash Bandicoot.
That's what it is. Sorry, Crash Bandicoot. Sorry, my bad.
Crash Team Racing.
That's the one. Crash Team Racing. Yeah, you should try Mario Kart. Anyway, so I think that's actually a really important point to make there. Using the mindset shifts to apply it to things like the data, to apply it to things like the planning is really critical to be able to move ahead. I just want to touch on something quickly as well. We did say before about the people that might not want to grow or scale to a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that there is probably some people that might have levels in there. So whether it's 15K or 100K a month or whatever it is, there's probably ways of going about it. But being able to scale to whatever your chosen amount is, if it's 100K months, being able to scale to those amounts and doing it well in a very leveraged manner, as I like to say, lean and mean, can actually hold you in good stead as well. So you can still have, a really good lifestyle, love your team you're working with, keep it nice and tight, lean and mean, and actually still make plenty of money or profit.
Yeah,
make money.
Totally. Yeah, build your business for you, I think is what you're trying to say there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because not every business should scale.
Totally.
If you got, like you said, if you've got a beautiful 15, 20K a month business, you've got a small client base that you love, you've got lots of lifestyle freedom, you can do that without a team, go for it. I personally want to be doing $1 million a month, and that's what I want. So everyone can do whatever they want. But the reason I'm saying this is you need to be really honest with yourself and don't constantly be trying to do things because you think you should be doing them.
Yeah.
If you want to create a larger impact, if you want to be getting out to more people, if you enjoy having leadership responsibility, then definitely scale.
Yeah. I think there's something you can definitely take out of this episode as well, is that the data, I know we talk about it a lot, but knowing the data and knowing where you are at right now and being able to apply that to your business, even if you have a super small team. Actually, you know what? I don't think this matters if you got a small team as you and a VA, or there's 10 of you or 20 of you or 30 of you. I always like to apply the lean and mean approach to all, and every cent counts. Doesn't matter if you're doing $1 million a month or 20K a month, same principles apply. Know your data, know where you need to go with it. And there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be trying to maximize your profit. Yeah. That's what you're in business for.
Actually, really good point there. And I want to touch on this really quickly. I've seen people at much, much larger amounts lose a lot of money because they're not paying attention to their data. And all of a sudden, it's a lot easier to leak money and not realize it because it's not as painful. So always, always, always look at the data. But I think that I like to close this out. Scaling isn't just about making your business bigger. Like we were talking about growth and scale, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean make your business bigger. It's actually about making your business stronger. So it's about having systems, stronger leadership, stronger foundations, because when the structure is right, growth becomes the natural outcome of that scale. And then, that in that place, that's about more profit and less chaos.
Yeah. I just like to leave you with something as well. And this just came up just then, is that just say you're doing 30 hours a week, right?
Yep.
And you're doing somewhere between 20 and 100K.
Yep.
What if you could do that in 15 hours a week?
Yeah.
Technically, that's scaling.
100%.
Yeah. So
but
something about
can I add a little piece there that some people may miss? And it's how we started this episode. Yes, coming back to that 15 hours a week, but bringing in the same amount or more. Because it's not just about suddenly not working those extra 15 hours, but halving your revenue. It's not that.
Yeah, totally.
That's the clarity piece there. All right, it's the taking the 15 hours away or not working that 15 hours, earning the same or more that you were earning at the 30 hours.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the critical piece. Leon, what do you want to leave people with in relation to this topic?
So,
with the topic being the hard truth about scaling a business.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is you need to know your numbers. Put the work in and not be afraid of it, and think about the reward that you can get from the other side of it. Think about Sam running a shop 4 hours a week. Well, actually it was 3 shops and 2 businesses, but who's counting, and being able to hang out with the kids, and that was her dream lifestyle. So whatever your dream lifestyle or life is, not just lifestyle, but life, if you think where you want to get to, and just the quicker you learn the data, the quicker you get a plan together, get on with it, make that mindset shift, get going, and then push towards that dream life that you want.
What I'm going to finish this with is actually going off something you just said, and you said don't be afraid of it. I think I'm afraid of it every single day, because to get to that next level, I feel fear. There is not a week that goes past where I don't cry over something. There is not a week that I don't get frustrated with myself over something. There is not a week that goes past where I don't get really pissed off about something. There's also every single week, at some point in the week, it's like, oh my God, I'm doing this for a reason. Like, this is my why. This is what I'm doing it for. But I do feel the fear every single week, because I think that if you're comfortable and you're not, then you're not playing to, like that next level, that person that you're sort of growing into, that new identity, like that pushes boundaries. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. And just quickly, I know that I can hear a little bit of emotion in your voice right now, but I just want to say that one of the things, and I've said this before on another episode, is I love about you is that you care deeply about what family and your clients and what they can achieve. And I just think it's awesome. But I hear the emotion, and I know it's because you care, and that's a big deal for me.
Love that. Love you. Guys, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. We'll catch you next time in another episode of Business Growth.